and welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Ken.
I'm Filippo.
And let's get into it, starting with the news. Yes, our first news story, tariffs.
What's the news story?
The news story is this. They didn't happen. Here's a funny story. We had a clip that happened to go up right when he was saying he would do the tariffs, where we were like, he's not going to do the tariffs. And people were like, this aged badly. Your guys are idiots. And then he didn't do the tariffs. We were right.
All right. On Saturday, the Trump administration announced they would put 25% tariffs on all goods from Canada and Mexico and 10% additional tariffs on all goods from China.
It was midday Friday, and it was a tough situation. But yes, that is exactly what happened.
They actually said midday Friday that they would be announcing the tariffs on Saturday. So be careful. But then on Monday, they rolled them back. And they never went into effect.
Now, I will say...
There's a 1 month freeze.
There's a 1 month freeze. I will say, I don't know where this is going to go, so I don't want to devote a lot of time to it. It is hard to explain how significant of an impact this would have on the auto industry. An enormous number of cars are built in Canada and Mexico. Enormous number. Not just cars that you think of being Canadian and Mexican, like the Bricklin SV1 and the Stretta MXT.
They came first in my mind.
I'm talking about, like, real cars.
Most cars that you can think of as the best-selling cars
Chevy Camaro
are built, at least in part, in one of those two places.
Well, that's the other thing. Then there's a lot of suppliers that are located down there. I read an article saying that the auto industry would stop in 1 week if those tariffs came into place.
The big question mark, and why we can't really speculate that much more, is that even once they were communicated to be going into place, there wasn't that much great actual guidance on how does this work, what is and is not exempt, because there's always some carve-outs. And that wasn't really clear. So there were a lot of estimates of what would happen. Car prices could go up $1,000 to $9,000. A lot of factory workers could be furloughed. Tariffs are on hold for a month. We'll see what happens in a month.
It didn't happen in the end, and I still, consistent with what I said in that short, I still suspect they will not happen. It's just too damaging to the economy, and the stock market hated it. And the current administration is really tied to how the stock market feels about their policies, and I have a suspicion they're just not going to let it happen, is my guess. We'll see, I guess. Okay, move on to our next news story, please.
Yes, Aston Martin. Now, this has been a very big week for Aston Martin. So, if those of you who are unfamiliar, like a little while ago, they hired a new CEO, Adrian Hallmark. He came over from...
That's this fellow?
That's this fellow. He came over from Bentley, and he has...
That feels right.
Some big ideas. So, the first thing was that regarding their EV, which they said was going to come out soon, he said, no. We're pushing that down the road, which is, not a surprise. We talked about it recently. A lot of manufacturers are doing this. But Aston Martin not only pushing, all enthusiasts go, yes, just another win over an EV.
Didn't Aston have an agreement with Lucid to purchase their engines?
So it's a little bit different. So like they talked about that a little bit. They were doing some collaboration with Lucid, but they're Lucid.
Yeah.
Push that down the road.
The most interesting thing, though, that came out of this.
The most interesting thing was that the CEO, in addition to a bunch of other things, said, we need manual transmissions. He believes in the idea that he's seen Porsche's business model, what they've been able to do with that the 911R started and the ST and these special Porsches that have manuals. And he said, we need that. Now, admittedly, he had recognized that Aston Martin does currently make a manual transmission in the Velour, or however it's pronounced. But even he was like, Harry Metcalf said it wasn't very good, and I think he kind of felt the same, but he realized...
He also said that they need to make more special versions of existing line cars, which is also in line with Porsche's business model. So that's your GT3s, your GT4s, et cetera.
Yes, car to take it directly to the 911 ST.
And it's an interesting concept. Now, I will point out, Aston has tried this before. Like remember when they did like the limited run V12 Vantage with a manual, and nobody really cared, right? It wasn't like the GT3 where people are lining up down the block and people are posting on Renlist about how their spoiler tips are going to be in a slightly different color than the rest of their car.
While that is true, now cars are going more EV, which we'll tie into another story we'll get to in a minute.
That's a good point. So here's them standing in their own...
Which is exactly what we said, that if Ferrari won't do it, somebody else should, who has an exotic car brand.
And if anyone's gonna, it makes sense for Aston too, because I wouldn't want to say they have nothing to lose, but they're like...
Oh, no, I'll say it. They have nothing to lose.
They're not in a great spot. Like, Ferrari is obviously gone in a different direction, but is making a lot of money. Aston, you might as well give it a try.
Well, you know what Adrian Hallmark said? It's one of my favorite quotes. I have to get this exactly right. He said, my mission is to be the first CEO in 112 years to make Aston Martin sustainably profitable. which is quite a statement.
Ford couldn't do it.
Ford couldn't do it.
I will say, it's interesting. Over at Bentley, he obviously had a big impact. He gave the Continental GT a V8. Decontented that car.
Sold many of them, though.
No, I killed the Mulsanne.
Oh,
He's a traitor. No, it's an interesting idea, but
Well, I think what the brand
it's Aston Martin.
it is.
They
but-
had a 7-speed manual Vantage, which was the only way to get a manual and an AMG engine, and they still couldn't sell those.
That's the thing. They did this. They had manual
they did it-
Vantages up until a couple years ago, and no one was buying them or interested in them or even really knew they existed.
I think well, from everything that I read, there were a lot of flaws with it. It wasn't implemented wasn't developed. particularly
Regardless,
well.
like I hate to say it, but Aston Martin has the same flaw as Jaguar and Maserati, which is they are not enthusiast brands. They are luxury brands. Like enthusiasts don't want them. People who want luxury things want them. You know what I'm saying? And so there's not like, this is why Astons depreciate like crazy. They overproduce the cars. They're not like cars that you and I line up to buy. It's not like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche. It's not an enthusiast brand. Could they become one? It would take a lot of work and a lot of investment. They built a factory to build an SUV that now retails on the used market for $47,000.
I think that there is a chance they could do it with the right cars, with the right reviews of those cars, with the right public perception, the right marketing. It is doable. And it is filling a niche that you both have said, that I don't care about, but that you both have said is a necessary one.
Yeah.
No,
Aston Martin, though.
I appreciate the fact that I want to see what they're going to do, what his vision is. He said, now, admittedly, like these changes, some of these changes are going to come in the next year and a half, where they're going to start implementing these things. But these special edition models will take longer. Like the really,
I also remember when they made all those weird special edition Vantages on that 06 body, and it felt more like lipstick on a pig than like a GT3 RS.
Yes, but think about
some of them literally had lipstick.
But think about, yes, that is true. But think about how desirable that V8 Vantage actually was. How many of those they sold. The DB9, same thing. They sold tons and tons of those. So what happened? I think that the idea of following someone with a strong vision for what they should be doing and giving that a real shot is the way to go. It's what Andreas Prenger has done at Porsche. It's one guy who had a very strong vision.
And I shouldn't be too fatalistic until they start implementing this to see it happens. I just have seen them try it before. They did manuals, they did special editions. Neither had a big impact, and now they're in what I would consider to be a pretty rough spot.
They're in a rough spot, but if they make exciting cars, they make exciting cars. If Ferraris are silent in EVs and Aston Martin still have V12s in them, that's compelling.
And on that subject,
well, we're not quite there yet. We're still on Aston Martin. The next news story has to do with the Valkyrie, speaking of 12-cylinder engines. So Aston Martin Valkyrie, it's this insane looking supercar, NA V12, Cosworth V12. So they have announced they're taking it racing. And when I say racing, they're actually going to use a V12 engine on a racetrack, which hasn't been done.
Is it that engine that's in the Valkyrie that I drove?
That's my understanding. Yes, or a race-bred version of that engine. So
that engine seemed pretty race-bred. Like you couldn't speak in the car or be in the car without earplugs.
Yeah, but I'm sure a race car driver would get in and be like,
maybe, but dude, it was like Vibration City and it revved to 15,000. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, yes.
So they're going racing with an NA V12 in Le Mans.
Yeah, so their goal is to get to Le Mans. So it's going to debut later this month at Qatar, or Qatar is where they're going to actually have the first time this car will debut on track. But they have a really big year set for it. They're also going to take place at the 12 Hours of Sebring, and then their goal is to get to Le Mans. They've already done 9,230 miles of development testing with the car. They say, which is a lot.
Someone drove that car 9,230 miles.
That's what they're saying since the car was in testing in July of last year.
I drove that car 11 miles from PCH to Newport Coast Drive, back down Newport Coast Drive, back down PCH, and I decided I never wanted to get inside it again as long as I live. This is an interesting story also because we're not talking about it today, but we should. Ford also announced this week or last week they're going back to Le Mans. And racing has had a resurgence. Yeah. Ferrari's there now. Everybody's obsessed with Formula One. I honestly thought, and I don't like to talk about it because people already know I'm not a big motorsports guy, but I honestly thought there was a period in the late 2000s into the 2010s and 20s when racing maybe was like, had seen its peak and was kind of sunsetting. And that's still kind of true in NASCAR, which is but Le Mans racing and Formula One are like the most popular they've ever been in their entire history.
Yep. For Formula One, obviously it comes back to the marketing that Liberty has done with like the whole series on Netflix and like getting them back. But no, it's exciting. And it's exciting to see real manufacturers, like storied manufacturers who have won in the past do this.
And that Ferrari is there, and that Aston is there, and that Ford's going to be like, this is like real stuff. This isn't like Audi just winning every year because they're the only ones who tried.
With diesel power, by the way.
They'd go by to be like, it wasn't anything.
Dominated for a
decade.
decade.
I'm kidding. That was a lot. Audi, if you're listening, heck of a job. No, it really was. That was a serious effort. But now it's like really competitive and legit. Everybody's back. It's like
back.
racing is like return.
Well, and think, I mean, just watching it next year, Ferrari battle Aston Martin, like it is,
Yeah.
it will be exciting. Like,
It will be cool to see these cars and to see these. Now they're trying to sell on the back of this stuff. Aston is essentially selling a street version of this car. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, if
the 60s
car,
all over again.
If this car wins, I mean, imagine like that. That is so cool. So I'm rooting for Aston Martin commercially, and I'm rooting for them on the racetrack.
Well, and that's another thing. If the two tie in, right? Like if this is a successful thing, then that brings enthusiasts interested into the brand, and suddenly they have kind of something going here.
Yes, so it's possible.
And suddenly Aston Martin becomes an enthusiast brand.
Oh.
Meanwhile,
Yes,
here are people
meanwhile-
putting together a Ferrari dashboard that goes inside an SUV.
Yes, for the UK market potentially. Looks like it's a right-hand drive. But anyway.
Singapore. That's going to Singapore.
It's going to Singapore. So yes, on the topic of Ferrari, they have announced that they're going to have, their EV is going to launch on October 9th. They've picked a date. So that car that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Forward to.
8 months from now.
Or a day to fear, as I do. Because they said they're going to launch it in a, quote, unique and innovative way, which means it will be incredibly cringy and very bizarre.
Just like Jaguar did.
But it is interesting. So, we knew this was coming. We saw testing about it a couple of weeks ago. But on the topic of hybrids and electric stuff, Ferrari says that 51% of Ferraris they sold in 2024 were hybrids. That's the 296, GTB and GTS, and then the SF,
Which is essentially their volume car.
which is essentially
Right.
their volume car. So it makes sense. But
Is the sport utility vehicle hybrid?
No, an
yet?
EV12.
But we know there will be a hybrid
Inevitably.
version.
But in
Right.
2024, an AV12.
An AV12.
So, take that. But it is,
I do take that. I drove one. It was great.
it was interesting in reading this. I also read some more stats. So, the Chinese market is what they're targeting specifically, which has a huge appetite for EVs. So it makes sense that I suspect a lot of these Ferrari EVs will probably end up going there. But again, like it's clear that this is, like we talked about, this is a different Ferrari customer to the That's what I think.
I want to talk. I did that whole segment on Ferrari's luster. Have they lost their luster? And there was a lot of comments about that. And I want to cover that maybe now, maybe later. Let's cover it now.
By the
Ferrari-
way, can I say one thing?
Say the
Ferrari
profit
stock
number.
is up 8% since they released profit numbers earlier this week. They've had $1.5 billion US in.
Okay, I want to make a point here. I want to make a point here about my Ferrari lost its luster take. Because Ferrari's got record profits. Their stock price is like 8x from when they launched on the stock market. They're selling more cars than ever. They're killing
Making more money per car
more
than
money
ever.
per car than ever.
13,752 last year.
13,000 cars last year. They're obviously absolutely killing it. So I'm sitting over here with my Ferrari lost its luster take, and there are some people who are questioning maybe the sanity of that take. You know what I want to amend that to? Two things. First off, about 70% of the people who watch that seem to think that I was complaining about the cars themselves. I don't care about the cars. They seem to be fine. I don't know. It's not what I was talking about. I was really specifically talking about their former business strategy, which was that they would sell a lot of cars to certain people just to get them out the door, and then those people would then be invited to buy certain cars, and that was like a big portion of their market. It seems to me that in the sense of that strategy, Ferrari has lost its luster. However, I also am starting to realize they're moving on from that strategy.
Oh, interesting.
They no longer care about trying to sell the same 12-cylinder models to rich guys so that those guys will buy the Enzos and that all those cars get sold and resold and everybody makes money. Ferrari doesn't care about that anymore. What I think Ferrari cares about is just selling cars to people, whoever they are. And I think we are going to see a situation where you don't have to be invited to buy a Ferrari, or you don't have to have bought 5 other ones before, but you just have to be rich. And to be fair, maybe that's the way it
There's a
should be.
lot of wealthy people.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of income disparities increase. Even more wealth disparities have. And that means there's a lot more people that can afford some caliber of Ferrari. And also, probably their base models are better than they once were.
Yeah.
The 456, the California, Portofino, maybe.
456.
Well, I'm going back in time for our friends.
It's a flagship model, V12.
I do think that yes, there are more rich people than ever. And I think Ferrari's sitting here looking at this and saying, why are we limiting production, limiting demand, and only selling cars to certain people who honestly will eventually age out? Like, why not just open it up to the whole world of rich people?
Because-
now, the drawback is the whole world of rich people includes some really tasteless, questionable. But I think if you're Ferrari, like you're a public company, you're like whatever. And so when I'm sitting here being like, they're not going to be able to sell 12 cylinders now. Ferrari's like, we don't care. We're selling them to other people.
Yeah.
We're selling them in China. We're selling them to people who have billions and don't care about how the waiting in line to get one. That was always Jay Leno's complaint.
Right.
Now Ferrari's over here being like, screw it.
Personally, I've never liked the gatekeeping that they do. However, it does start to smell a little bit like Maserati when you see them everywhere. And it does lose its
But
luster.
I think their argument would be tough. You like the old ones, play with the old ones. We're gonna sell a lot of cars to a lot of rich people.
You do have to be careful because you still need to be appealing as an automaker. You need to have some like scarcity
They're gonna push
component. They're going to push it,
And I'll tell
they
you
might
something.
push too far.
One interesting thing that has happened that has allowed these automakers to really push it is Asia. So back in the day, you could only sell expensive cars in two places, the United States and Switzerland. That was it. And that was true from the 1940s until yesterday afternoon, pretty much. I'm like, kind of seriously. Asia has allowed all these companies to open up. They can pretty much double their volume, and nobody in the Switzerland and America realizes.
Right.
We don't think that they're any less special than they ever were because we don't go to China and see them everywhere.
Right. Last year, they put a 10% cap on the cars they were delivering to China. I suspect that number changes dramatically.
They just increase it 10% every year, and eventually 300,000 cars in China.
What was your stat? 20% of their revenue came from personalizations?
I found this. Yeah, so options. If you ever look at a Ferrari window sticker, there's a little section that says, there's some options, and it says other. And usually it is an insane figure, 50 grand, 100 grand. I've seen $200,000 in options. Ferrari says that last year, 20% of their total revenue came from just options. Paint colors, leather swatch, like leather.
I mean, the company doesn't.
It's a different
heated
Ferrari.
seats are $2,500 extra on a Ferrari. They're standard on a RAV4 hybrid.
CarPlay, I think, is $4,900.
CarPlay. Like, yeah, of course they made a lot of money from options.
But surely the profit margin is quite significant from that too. And if you can compel people to do it.
Also, the dealers won't let people order base cars. You walk in, you say, I want a Nicki Minaj Super Base.
Nice.
They say, get out. They say, you got to put 100 in options on this car to hit quotas. You got to do it. Anyway, the point is, Ferrari has not lost its luster. I apologize deeply for the folks who didn't understand the incredible nuance in my.
I'm concerned about their luster.
I'm concerned about their luster.
Sure.
But I think Ferrari's point would be, we're selling cars and making money. Screw you. Specifically you, specifically guys like you who remember like the old era. I think specifically they don't care about the guys like you. They're saying we got new people who have new money. They want cars. We'll make them for them.
And also in the long run, we're all dead. So they don't need to sell cars forever.
Well,
Ferrari also,
right, no.
another thing that's thing that's important about Ferrari and specifically the EV and the Asia thing is Ferrari's name is not as strong in China. And so they got to get these cars in the hands of billionaires.
Is it not?
All the Western brands' names are not.
The most globally recognized brand in the. I mean, I don't think it's weak in China.
Porsche, all these brands do not. They sell like 2 911s a year in China. Like they're not as interested in our Western status symbols quite as much as we are. They got to send those cars out and get those cars in the hands of Chinese.
They need to make them visible.
They got to make them visible, and so let's sell.
And they have. And now, will they go too far?
We'll find out.
Yes, they will.
He already thinks they've gone too far.
I know they're going to. There's absolutely no question. It happened with Maserati. It'll happen with Ferrari too. I just like the old ones. Just give me my old ones and continue to supply parts for them because they were built like garbage back then.
Just to throw it out, had you bought their stock in 2015 thinking they would improve, you'd be right. They're up 723%.
Yeah. As we all know, wearing pants sucks. I'm a shorts guy, but I've worn shorts at times when pants probably would have been the better option. Pants really are unavoidable, even for me. It's February, it's cold outside, and you deserve to be comfortable in whatever you're wearing, no matter what you're doing. That's where Public Rec comes in. Their pants are a game changer, designed to be as comfortable as your favorite sweats, but way more stylish. We're talking about super soft fabric, no stiff seams, and enough stretch to keep up with whatever your day throws at you. And Public Rec isn't just about pants. They have so many great style options, whether you're working all day in the office, running errands, or just grabbing a meal with your friends. Who doesn't want to look sharp without sacrificing comfort? And I tell you, once you put them on, you're going to wonder why you ever wore anything else. Whether you're hanging out with friends, working on a car, or driving something with very tight sports seats, or just walking your dog, these pants have you covered. So, this February, treat yourself right, because comfort is always in season. Upgrade to Public Rec and feel the difference. And for a limited time, you can get 20% off at Public Rec by using the code CARS at checkout. Just go to publicrec.com, use the code CARS, and you're all set. And when they ask how you found them, be sure to mention our show. It really helps us out. Find your perfect fit and never compromise on comfort again. Public Rec, where comfort rules. All right, next news story. Audi. Here's a picture of Audi's lineup.
It's a sea of grayness.
2015.
Every car is gray.
2015, 2016-ish.
15, because I think
it's pre-checking. Okay, what is the news story?
Yeah, all right. Ken, you obviously are very familiar with Audi's current naming structure.
Yes, it's one of the easiest to follow. In the
about
industry.
a year or two ago, they announced they were changing it. And all EVs were going to be even numbers, and all gas-powered cars were going to be odd numbers.
Correct.
So the A5 and the A4 were going to be gas and electric versions of each other. They've walked that back, And now all electric cars will have e-tron after them, and all gas cars will have TFSI after them. But that means that they were about to reveal a new A7, which was not going to be the hatchback it once was. It's going to be the A6, but gas powered. But now that will be the
Let me give you a little
A6.
history. When I was a kid, Audi had 3 products.
The 80.
There was the 90, there was the 90, the 100, and the 200. The 100 and the 200 were just trim levels of each other.
So
The 90
never made
was a completely different car.
Yep.
A guy named Johann Dinisha came in 1996, renamed the whole thing. You know what he did? A4, A6, A8. It was so simple. It's so simple, in fact, that every other brand since then has been trying to copy it, right?
Including
Cadillac,
himself
CT4,
later.
including himself and other, like Infiniti and Cadillac, but all these brands try to copy it. Audi, with the names in the last few years, remember the 55, 35,
which
75
was based
thing?
on nothing. It was that was their the trim designation. It was no longer 2.0T. It was 45
It was just like relative
to other
position
engines.
in the market. So then they didn't even launch that in the U.S. because the
God.
U.S. product planners were like, that's the dumbest thing we've ever
actually
heard.
did, but nobody talks about
They
it.
launched it in the U.S. on like one model.
The Q7 had that
Q7 had
designation.
it.
Yeah.
They launched it in Canada. It was all over Europe and the Middle East. Anyway, that ended. Then they did Q4, Q6, A4, A5, A7, the odd and even thing. That's done.
it was okay with.
Then remember when they came out with the e-tron as their electric
course,
car?
and
Then
then
they
it-
realized they had to come out with other cars called e-tron. So they had an e-tron SUV and an e-tron sedan, but then there was
e-tron
also
GT.
a Q4 e-tron.
Yep.
Horrible.
Yep.
How did they screw this up so bad?
I think they're going back to their roots a little bit because there will be the A4, the A6.
You know what?
The-
This is just another example of what you said, Ferrari. Bring us, you know what? Just give us back the 2015 lineup. We loved it.
Can you do me one favor?
Good. Look at it.
R8
Can you name any car here that's not the R8? Just like point to it and name it.
A7 TT.
Oh.
It looks like
We're
the
gonna see this
A8 or something.
Nope.
6.
That's the problem. That was part of the problem.
S5.
That's an A4, by the way.
S5. Is it the all road?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well done.
Q7, Q5, Q3.
Well done. You only got a couple wrong. Proud of you.
It is weird that they did A3, A4,
It's a-
A6, A8. They did it just to mess with Canon. Okay, bring us our next news
They
story,
got me
please.
in the end.
Ah, yes. A Nissan Altima and a Honda Accord.
Must be Filippo's.
This looks like a still from a Straight Pipes video.
Love you straight pipes.
It's not
Jacob
carrying
Urey.
a plate there.
All right, a few weeks ago, we talked about how Honda and Nissan had kind of agreed to merge in some way, details TBD.
Yes.
Turns out those details will forever be TBD because they've basically said they're not going to do that.
I don't think they're forever BTBD. It sounds like
So what happened was Honda said, hey, Nissan, you need to figure out your restructuring and have a really good plan for that. But what we can do is make you like a subsidiary of Honda. And Nissan was like, no, we're not going to do that. And they were apparently quite offended by what Honda was implying and does not want to be a subsidiary. So Nissan has said that they're not interested in merging anymore.
Well, now remember though, the rumors around this when it first was announced was that the Japanese government was pushing it.
Yes, they still are.
So,
But not
right. So
enough.
if they still are, maybe they come back to the negotiating table at some point soon. Remember, Nissan also the other thing that was announced around the same time was Nissan said they were going to run out of cash this year.
Yeah, but they've stated, the Nissan board has stated pretty unequivocally, presumably with a lot of pressure from Renault, that is a majority stakeholder of Nissan, that they do not agree to anything that Honda's proposed.
Well,
that they're not happy.
they'll be not agreeing to anything right until bankruptcy and insolvency, and then the entire value of the company will be in their corporate headquarters in Nashville.
Right. I don't even know.
Whatever that's worth. $47 million, some commercial real estate broker is going to sell Nissan in 3 years.
And Honda, it's
Dude, I'm telling you, they can say whatever they want. This is happening. Mark my words.
I don't know that you actually get agreement to do it. There are other
Mark them.
manufacturers that
Which is
the
a city in Ontario.
That's nice. There are other deals that I think the Japanese government would not be very open to, but would be a better fit for Nissan in their current ideation.
Something's going to happen here.
Something's going to happen, but Honda doesn't really want to take on Nissan's issues. Nissan isn't thrilled by being said, hey, you have issues. And so here we are.
Something's going to happen here.
I
Nissan, we all
agree.
know Nissan has issues. The only cars they sell are to rental fleets and people with bad credit. They haven't come out with a good car. When? When was the last time? Name it.
Nissan sells 3 million cars a year globally. Honda sells
2.84 million of them are sold to Europe Car and Avis and Enterprise and Hertz.
Yeah, and Honda sells about 1 million cars more a year.
Yeah, but they don't sell the fleets at all.
Correct. But I think that Honda has realized, as they're doing some diligence, that Nissan's in a tough situation and they can't be trusted to govern themselves, is what I think Nissan or what Honda is saying. And by the way, it sounds like I'm just saying that. That's
So
pretty
Honda's
close to
out
what
here
they
saying
said.
Nissan can't govern themselves, and the Nissan board says, we don't want any part of you.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to go well.
Yep.
All right. I'm telling you, though, this ain't the last you heard of this news.
Oh, agreed.
Move on to the next segment, which is Talk About Cars. Okay, I have 3 important Talk Cars segments today. 4,
wow.
actually.
He has been frothing at the mouth
4
to have this
important
discussion.
Talk Car segments. One of them was
we hit
Ferrari
one.
Luster Revisited, which you already talked about.
Okay, check
Great.
that one off.
Okay, the second one, I have a present for Filippo.
Oh,
I got a present for him. I was at
That's
the
so
store the other
kind.
day. I was at the store the other day, and you know how we like the exotic cars. You know?
Yeah.
I got Filippo his version of an exotic car.
No way.
It's a Matchbox Chevy Blazer EV.
I'm thrilled.
This
With moving parts.
This will undoubtedly be the worst selling Matchbox car in history.
No, it was in the Barbie
no,
movie.
this worse.
Don't forget, it was in the Barbie movie
Now-
before it came out.
Now, for you, I also got.
I'm so thrilled.
This is another really happy surprise. A Mercedes-Benz CLA shooting brake. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. Number 1, this is a 2020 model, used. Number 2, this is not the AMG. This is a CLA 180D.
Good.
All right?
I'm honored by both of these gifts.
You
Thank
just
you.
threw it at him.
I was at the store. I was at the Target there.
Designed for a lifetime, unlike the CLA.
I think that model's actually already canceled. I don't think they brought a shooting brake to the new CLA.
No.
So this is a Europe-only
Wow.
base model and a car that nobody wants, Chevy Blazer EV. Hey, do you think that's the front-wheel camera well there? Do you think that's the front-wheel drive Blazer EV, the all-wheel drive Blazer EV, or the rear-wheel drive Blazer EV?
That's a really good, I'm going to open it up and find out.
Wow, he's going to ruin all the
Okay,
value.
while
Here
you open it,
goes.
I want to move on to my next Talk Cars segment, which is the 4Runner video. I posted it. I love the 4Runner. New 4Runner is a fantastic automobile. Truly
Much better than the
fantastic
Land Cruiser,
automobile.
per your review.
Wonderful car. I posted a video saying this, and boy, was there some complaints. If you read the comments of this 4Runner video, it's everybody is like, I'm going to keep my 5th gen, thanks. This is the worst thing. Can't believe they got rid of the V6. It's the worst thing they ever did in the world. And I just want to say to all the folks out there in 4Runner land who are haters, 2 things. Number 1, I was a kid when the 4th gen and the 5th gen came out, and I remember that they were hated when they came out. The same level of hate that this thing has now. The 5th gen came out, everybody said it was ugly, too advanced, too big, and it lost the V8. Everybody thought it was the crappiest crap that had ever crapped. And now people are like, oh my God, I can't get my 5th gen up. Same with the 4th gen. No, got rid of the 3rd gen, the 3.4, the greatest engine in the history of cars. Can't believe you're coming out with the 4-liter. This is a horrible thing. Why would you do this to us? Mark my words. Here's more word marking.
Oh.
In 20 years, people are going to be like, this hybrid 4Runner, I'm clinging to it. I'll never give up my hybrid 4Runner.
I agree.
This is just
Fully.
how these people are. And the comments are vicious. And I just want to be like, you have no concept. Part of the problem is that the 4Runner people, they stay in their own 4Runner lanes, and so they don't realize that this happens because it's every 10 years that a 4Runner is redesigned. They don't know that in other...
remember when the 5th gen
But
came out, right?
I post videos about
Came out in 2010.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I post videos about new cars all
Right.
the time, and I see this complaint all the time.
Yeah.
And I've actually been doing this long enough that I've now gone into some second generations of cars. Like I reviewed the previous
Yeah.
one, and now I'm on the new one. And you get that complaint. Like I remember people hated the one I first reviewed, and now they hate the new one and said they love the one I first reviewed. It's hilarious. And so that's just, they just have to be cool with it. They just have to get there. Now, one of the other complaints, people are like, you hated the Land Cruiser, but you like the 4Runner, especially the powertrain. The powertrain is much better suited to the 4Runner. For one thing, it's cheaper than the Land Cruiser, and also it's smaller. And so those 2 things make the 4Runner's hybrid 4-cylinder a lot more tenable than the powertrain in the Land Cruiser, where you're paying more and getting a more taxed, struggling vehicle. I love the 4Runner. I think it's great. And I think I am absolutely confident in saying this because I have no doubt that the 4Runner community will come around to this.
Yep.
Like 0 doubt in my mind. I've been there. I've been through all of these.
The revisionist history around some cars is wild.
It's wild.
The FJ Cruiser, not a popular automobile.
That
and
is
now it's
such a great one.
beloved.
Ford Toyota never should have canceled this. I remember when it came out and everybody complained, why isn't it more like the actual FJ? This is a cartoonish car. It's so stupid. They could have made it more like practical, and instead it has these stupid doors, and now it's all anybody wants.
Now a low mile FJ Cruiser is
like $100 grand.
$1,000 car.
It is, that is accurate. There is so much revisionism. Even, the other funny thing, when I was a kid, there were cars like the Camry, the like 90s Camry, and all enthusiasts agreed they were the crappiest, stupidest, like when the RAV4 first came out.
Yep.
And now enthusiasts are even getting into those.
Yep.
Like, oh, this was like OG. It was like my childhood. And it's just like, I remember when everyone hated this crap.
white tire.
Okay, I'm never giving a gift on the air again.
I love this gift so much. Also, based on this, it is a front engine at the very least. Interesting. I love this gift very much, and I agree with your point fully about which is rare. We usually disagree on this.
It is wild. There is so much revisionism. So much. I remember when in 98, when the Land Cruiser went to a V8, that was absolutely vilified in the press. A V8, a Land Cruiser. I can't believe they would do this, ruin everything. Because the Land Cruiser up until that point had been a 6-cylinder.
Yep.
Like since it came out, it was a 6-cylinder. That was like part of its DNA. It was always a straight 6. In every iteration, every version, it was a straight 6. And then, it's a V8. And then, of course, they now, God forbid, they make one without a V8.
People don't like change.
As enthusiasts, yeah, I don't. As enthusiasts, we
think of you.
we are a fickle bunch. That's true. But I try to keep an open mind. Not when it comes to EV Ferraris, but I try to keep an open mind generally.
I'm excited for when the next M5 is a 4-cylinder too.
Oh, I've already given up on the M5. It weighs more than a
I will
moon.
say, you actually raised an interesting point, which is if my whole life was 4Runner,
What?
I would like your whole you're so into M5 that like you've had to come to terms with the fact that it isn't what it once was. If my whole life was 4Runner, would I still make the same argument, like kind of dismissing their concerns? Maybe not, but I know as a point of fact, because I have been here before many times, they will come around.
Yep. I mean, another example is the M3. The current, like, a lot of people have come around on the styling, and I've heard many of my friends say it's like, it doesn't bother me anymore. It's like, because
Interesting.
Exactly as you and I said.
You're
when it
going to
came
see
out.
these 4Runners out on the trails. You're going to see them lifted. You're going to see them modded. You're going to see what they can do, and people are going to be like, "These are great." And people are also going to see that this hybrid powertrain is actually pretty good, and it honestly and truly is. Because I know, because I have one in my Sequoia.
And different engine.
Different engine, but it's the same complaint. They went down in cylinder count and up in hybrid count, and that's a pansy thing to do. That's what people say, and it's like.
There's no replacement for displacement.
It's like my car's 550 pound-feet of torque. Let's go. Let's do a towing competition right now.
I'm also excited for you all to come around to the new Countach soon.
Oh, I like it.
God, that's the worst thing that ever
To
happened.
be honest with you, I think the rear three-quarters is so cool.
You know how Mercedes Gullwings or Porsche 959s have typically always been valuable and will continue to go up in value? It's kind of similar to gold, which is why we've partnered with a company called Acre Gold. Financial experts and big banks agree the value of gold is climbing to new heights in 2025 and beyond. So how do you get in? Buying gold can feel complicated and expensive, but Acre Gold subscriptions make it easy and affordable. With subscriptions from $30 to $250 per month, Acre Gold makes gold ownership a reality for every budget. How does it work? Well, make automatic monthly payments into your stash until you reach the price of an Acre Gold bar. Once you pay for your bar, Acre Gold discreetly ships it to your door. Markets go up and down, but gold has stood the test of time. It's real, it's solid, and now it's easier than ever to own. Secure your wealth and take control of your future. Start today at getacregold.com.
On the subject of the new Countach, my last Talk Cars segment
What a transition.
is the Future of Concours.
Oh.
Okay, so I submit my Courage GT to the La Jolla Concours d'Elegance. It's a great story. La Jolla Concours d'Elegance, which is a concours event held here in San Diego, and people wear hats and such, but it's not.
Me.
It's kind of like a middling, like it's not like a prime event on the concours show circuit, let's say.
No, certainly not. Much smaller.
And it's smaller and it's like less prestigious on it. And proven by the fact that a couple years ago when Kennan debuted showed his Ferrari, he was parked next to a 348 that was missing its door panel.
Right, and I was afraid that I didn't have my car judged because I was afraid it would not meet concours standard. And the car next to me, the seat looked like a topical map of like the Sahara. Like it was just so cracked and it was true.
This isn't just kind of being a snob, by the way. This car was
like
just,
genuinely,
it was a driver,
rough.
but it was like a rough car.
I know the people who own the car; they're lovely, but they know it's a beater, and they were like stunned.
As I recall, it finished third.
It did.
Because there were, like 5 cars in the class, and you chose not to be judged.
Yep, there's a Dino, a Testarossa, and that 348, and I easily think I would have been like close with the Testarossa. Sorry, Fernando, but it was close.
So anyway, I submit the Courage GT. So last year I submitted the Countach. It won an award. Kennan prepared it.
Yes, I prepared it very proudly, and we won the Chuck Spielman Preservation Award.
Wow. Because it's such an original car, which it is, honestly.
Yep.
We painted the wheels a couple of days before the concours, but other than that.
Well, they love the stickers, though.
So anyway, everybody came up to me at the concours last year and said, hey, where's the Courage GT? Where's the Courage GT? I said, hey, I'll bring it next year. So I submit it. And they call me and they say, hey, it's $350 to submit a car. They say, hey, we can't take it because it's not 25 years old. Well, it's 22. And also, it's not like this is Pebble Beach. So I'm like, all right, well, fine. They said, but hey, you can submit it. There's a parking lot show that you can submit it to for the same price. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, to be fair, it's the road that goes up in La Jolla. It's like it's not just a parking lot somewhere. But anyway,
And I knew things were going to go bad when they called me and they were like, we saw you submitted your GT Carrera. These are Duesenberg guys. They don't know what that car is, you know?
they like Auburn Speedtails.
They're like a good boat tail speedster. Yeah,
that's right.
That's what they're out here. They're looking for
Bearcat.
chrome. Dude, if I had a Stutz Bearcat, I'd be front and center. They'd have made a Stutz Bearcat class for me. So anyway, they said no, you can't submit it. I said, well, I think the audience might like it. And they still said no. And I said, all right, well, that's fine. And I got a refund. And I'm not going to show it because I can't. But one of the things I thought about this whole experience, which I found, I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to go anyway. I'm just not with the car. I just found it kind of amusing. But one of the things I thought about this thing was the Concours events and their future. Concours events primarily focus on chrome, big 30s, 40s cars, some 50s, 60s stuff, at the Monterey Car Week, where you have probably the most prestigious Concours event in the world, the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, tickets are on sale, and they're just generally available. Like, you could go online right now and buy it for $495. Meanwhile, the Quail event that week, which is all about modern supercars and hypercars and Paganis and Carrera GTs and Super Mark IV Supras. I wish. No, like real stuff. They would look at a Mark IV Supra and say, excuse me. Like real stuff, like all the hottest, like craziest Pagani Utopias and Bugattis and all that stuff.
And stuff debuting too.
Yes. That event sold out in 4 seconds and tickets cost $1,800. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, is this indicative of where the hobby is going? Like, are the Concours events going to start to sunset? And when they say no to a Carrera GT, is that like, but you see how Quail succeeds with those types of cars. Is this the future of the Concours? Like, is our generation finally having its moment?
I'm hesitant about it. I think that what Concours need to do to stay relevant is to have younger classes, which Amelia Island had made a point of that.
They did.
In fact, they have a best of show pre-war, best of show post-war. So there are two cars that technically win best of show.
Younger classes.
The younger classes still cars that are 100 years old.
Right. Now, granted, the younger class, the one last year, I think was a 250 LM.
But you are right. You are right. Because I've been to that Amelia, and they have several classes. The F40s are being shown. Yes. I awarded an award to a 1995 Cadillac.
Right, that ended up looking an awful lot like an Espada or a Mira.
But no, you're exactly right. At Amelia, they realized, because like, hey, we're going to start losing these young people. Let's add newer classes. But that's kind of my point, though, right? If Pebble Beach doesn't make that switch, now Pebble Beach is the most prestigious of them. They probably don't need to do that anytime soon. But smaller Concours events,
you're seeing it though. I mean, they had McLaren F1s on the last year, so. You're definitely seeing that. I definitely worry about some of the longevity of these events, but also a lot of events, concours-ish things have popped up recently. Like the Audrain is doing an amazing job, and they invited me to judge their young timers class, although it rained and they had to cancel it. But
the fact that they had that class is kind of proof, though, of what I'm saying, right?
Exactly. So I think that all concours will go that way.
What I think people don't realize about concours events is that they kind of cut off in like the 60s and never really expanded beyond that. Like Pebble Beach, back when it was back in the day, used to be for brand new vehicles. And people would bring rebodied, not rebodied, but cars in period that a body had been created by some showman, and it would show up there and it was like this, nobody had seen it before. It was incredible, like in the 40s. And cars like that would win Best in Show. And then they hit a wall and kind of stopped accepting cars past a certain year. Not accepting, but winning. I mean, every car that wins is 30s, 40s, 50s.
Just like California smog exemptions.
Oh, man. 50-year-old cars are not smog exempt. 50-year-old cars. Yeah. Anyway, and I have a suspicion that if the Concours really want to stay real, they're going to have to do classes of younger vehicles and maybe start thinking about moving up to a more modern era.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
How does the Quail justify its 4x price relative
because it sells out. They should charge 5x. They should charge 10x. It sells out. I'm not joking with you. It sells out in a day. Like the way they justify it is they literally have no more
Yeah.
space. And every year they've bumped the ticket price by like 50% and they still sell out in a day.
I think 2 years ago it was 800. Last year it was 1,200. This year is 1,600.
1,600. And that tells you where
Yep.
the people want to go and what the people want to see, in my opinion.
And I believe it was sold out, by like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Gone.
All the tickets, including for like standby and stuff. So yeah.
Wow.
Then people are selling them on StubHub for like $3,000. Meanwhile, again, you could go on to the Pebble Beach Concours website and just buy a ticket, walk up, buy a ticket, $500, general admission. It's a different world.
Different world.
It certainly is. But I look forward to going to concourse events and seeing how they evolve in the future. I love seeing I'm the person who still walks through the pre-war cars and those like freaks
You don't
out
have
at
one,
Cadillac
though.
16.
And would you?
I'd love to have a pre-war car.
You'd love to have a chrome thing
Yeah, Duesenberg.
with the Hyuga horn.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a Packard guy, so like, but I still have an Ooga one.
Okay.
Yeah, I love a Packard.
Those were our Talk Cars segments. We're going to move on to the market report. I have nothing to say in the market report, but Kenan has a lot. Kenan, let's talk X3.
Okay, yes, let's start. So recently, I was just kind of scrolling through cars and bids. I've been thinking about getting an SUV myself, and I noticed that X3Ms are coming down in value. We sold this one for $44,500. Now this one had 36,000 miles on it. It's a 2020 model, and I think this has the window sticker or a Monroney label that said that it cost $85,700 new.
This is an $86,000 car. It's also doesn't it have 550 horsepower. Something 500 horsepower.
Yeah, 500 horsepower. An X3M competition. It's like that's a lot of. Now I realize they're going to continue to go down in value, but that's a lot of car. And this is a very good looking.
And it's
SUV.
modern. Like this car's not going to have reliability issues for at least 2 to 3 years.
At least 2 to 3 months.
No, but really though, like
truly.
This is an impressive situation. I agree. 85 sticker 4 years ago. The person only drove 36,000 miles. This has real modern day performance.
Yeah, absolutely. They're phenomenal. The X3M is a phenomenal car to drive. So it's like these are seriously compelling.
Yeah. We sold another one for $38K with very similar mileage. That one there.
Yeah, look at this
The
one.
prices are
What's the mileage on that?
40
43,400.
and not compact, so a little bit less.
I think
horsepower,
these cars
but
are cool also. A lot of enthusiasts watching will be like, it's SUVs.
No, it's cool.
I think this drives pretty well. You ever drive one? I mean, I have a suspicion that this would, you complain about SUVs all you want, but I have a suspicion that this would run circles on a racetrack around a lot of performance cars from not that long ago. Yes, your M5, but a lot of performance cars from not that long ago, just generally.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. So
deals.
It's fat. It handles well. It's fun to drive.
I'm always looking. I've mentioned before, I stomach the cost of maintenance, but I cannot stomach depreciation, which is the only expense you feel when you sell the thing. And the fact that these are half price already, you know, 5 years later is like
Depreciation's our friend.
Yes, exactly.
You and I.
You wait 2 more years and you get into one of these at 32, 33,
28.
28. I mean, that's like
real value.
really, really an appealing car. I
totally-
already think they're appealing cars. When I see them on the road, I really take notice of them. I think they're cool. It's a lot of power. They're cool. They're fun. But that's like,
I once saw this reel on Instagram. It was the guy who was talking about philanthropic things. He said buying a new car as a person is philanthropic because I suffered the depreciation so that an enthusiast can enjoy it after me.
Yeah.
It's an exercise, and I'm here for it. I'll take advantage of that.
I'm so impressed by this. I didn't really realize that these were already into the 30s. It is an enormous amount of performance.
By the way,
Are
it's
GLC
true for all of
63s?
these. Yes.
GLC 63s are at this number?
Yep.
Type in GLC 63.
We don't sell that many of them, but yeah.
Neither did Mercedes. I never see GLC 63s. They're cool, but I never.
Yeah,
40s back in June. Wow. GLE 63s are not that far off, to be honest.
Yeah, but Ken and I like the little car.
GL.
Oh, no, hit GL63. Let's see what those are going for.
GLE, though.
No. Let's do GL.
Oh, GL63s are free.
22.5,
We
18.
We recently
These are
sold
older,
a
though.
GLS 63, which is 2016 and up of that same body style, for 20 something.
No way.
Add a space between 63. We are an M1
R&M to 25, but this one's sold at 34. That's the new body.
That's the new body.
Well, the
Yeah.
facelift of that body, because the new one came out.
Right.
That's a
lot of car.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's a lot of car.
V8.
It is amazing. Like, I feel like in this era, there were a lot of improvements fast, like CarPlay and technology really improved quick. And I don't feel like there have been that many improvements since then. It's the market's a lot more focused on EVs. And so, like,
these cars to me still feel very modern, and they're depreciating it to a level that's like astonishing. When the predecessors of these were in their 30s, they felt like older cars. You couldn't get like X5Ms, original X5Ms always felt older. This is like feels like a pretty modern car.
Agreed.
That X3M feels like a new car. If I parked that in front of my house, my neighbors would be like, "Whoa, you got a brand new car."
Yeah,
I
exactly.
told yesterday the X3 looked like that.
Yeah, and there's not even an M on the new one.
And to your point, also in terms of looks, like styling has become so much more incremental amongst manufacturers.
Yeah.
Like the Range Rover is a great example. New Range Rover is like looks like a smoother version.
Frankly,
of
the GLS is too. Frankly, the X6, X3 is like. I think a lot of these cars you really have to know the new GLC. It's wild how that's such a great point. It's so subtle that like you can get away with lying to people.
Don't lie to me. But if you pull up to the valet and they don't know, I mean,
Also, even if you go to a
X3M
valet,
is a good call.
yeah,
X3M is a very compelling.
You don't
car.
even need the comp.
no, you don't. Probably
No,
don't
it's a
want
great.
the
It's a
comp.
great car.
475 horsepower. That's got to be doing 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
faster than Courage GT?
Probably.
No,
It's close, and it's 36, and it's an SUV that you can put a dog in.
isn't Courage GT 3.7?
Yeah, but I don't.
I mean,
it might be 3.7. I don't know.
a wise man once told me, all performance cars are the same fast.
All performance cars are the same fast. You've heard it here first.
3.7 with the comp. It just
on the road, they all
That's
feel
as
the same.
fast. I promise you that would be the Courage GT. Ain't nobody doing a hard 1-2 in a Courage or a launch. Courage GT launch, I get beaten off the line by Priuses at every stoplight.
Except for that crazy guy in Monaco that drives the black one around and just slides it around.
Raul.
He's
Yeah, no, I mean
launching.
I could slide it, but starting off is hard.
Well, for our sake, please don't.
Okay, that's a great one.
Can we talk about one more?
yeah, you
the,
wanna talk
the
about-
FD RX7. We
Oh,
just
yeah.
sold one today.
This car I was very excited about because this is
Your search decisions are incredible to me.
hey, you try searching sometime, Filippo. This car very exciting. So FD RX7, you and I agree, one of the most beautiful Japanese cars of all time.
The
You
most-
love this car.
I think it's the most beautiful Japanese car
Wow.
ever made.
The 2000 GT exists, but we'll move on.
No.
This car, but this is a unicorn. Manual transmission, 41,700 miles, and it's mostly stock. And when I say mostly stock, it's like a head unit, some brake pads, and they're
Not even a head unit. It's great.
Where is
Not
this?
even-
Was this in Canada?
This was
Oh, it was in
Washington, Washington State.
I wish it had been in Canada. I would have swooped in.
But it sold for $46,000, which I think is, I believe, is that it's the most expensive non-modified one we've sold, correct? Non-modified?
It's got to be up there. We sold
Man.
another one for that same price point. But
That-
all the last 4 that we've sold have all been about
R1
40
was a deal
grand.
too. RX7s are so
up there.
FD RX7s are so cool.
So
They're one of the
cool.
coolest cars that exist.
Yep.
And unlike the Supra, which doesn't look as good and doesn't drive as well, the RX7 has never gone way up in value because everybody's scared of the rotary engine.
And right-
And you know what? With good reason.
Rightfully so. Yep.
Such a
Dude, if this had a 2J from the factory in it, this would be a $200,000 car. If this had an RB26 or Mazda's version of that, right? Like an R34 Skyline is a 200 car. An NSX is a 200 car. Not really. A Mark IV Supra is a 150 car. These are 47 grand because they have a rotary instead of like a legendary 6-cylinder.
Right. I mentioned this on the Live Now show that we do on the Cars and Bids channel, and my parents knew an aerobic instructor who had one brand new at the time. And even then, every time she'd pull up somewhere, she'd open the hood and let the heat out of the engine.
Yeah, I mean,
and
there's
she'd, like,
in
follow
order
the
to
manual.
run a rotary, apparently there's like stuff you got to do.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff you got to do. And they're
One of
it's
them
a
is find a
wonderful,
rotary specialist.
right, it would be really handy yourself. But they're rotaries are special engines. It's a great concept.
That's
it
the
just
other-
never worked.
That's the other thing that nobody talks about. It actually drives better. Like
Yeah.
the 2J is a smooth powertrain and the RB can be modified like crazy. There is nothing like the smoothness of a rotary. It is so nice. You know, I was sitting next to Jay Leno when he drove his first rotary Mazda RX-7.
Oh, is
Brag
that
about
right?
Yes,
which was then sold on Cars and Bids. FC RX7.
I don't remember anything about that. No, it was an FB.
FB RX7.
I don't remember anything about that experience. I just wanted to drop that. No, these are incredible cars. Why don't I have an FD? Because I'm afraid of maintenance. Like, it's the same as
Yeah.
everybody else. I don't want the headache.
yeah.
Can I
Look at
mention
that car.
one other Japanese car?
Look at that
Can you
car.
look up AW11?
Do you know those don't weigh anything, by the way? Those weigh nothing.
That's part of the benefit of the rotary engine. It's compact. It's lightweight. There's just less going on.
These are
with it,
like
so-
Miatas. They're like a more serious Miata.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like in terms of what they weigh and how athletic they are, they came out at the same time as the Supra, the 3000 GT, and the 300 CX, which were all pigs. They were heavy, and so people lump this car in there, but that is not true. The FD is a light little car. You want to talk AW11?
You want to talk about
I do.
811 for some reason?
I do think that the Supra weighed 600 pounds more than the RX-7. Than that FD RX-7.
600
100 pounds
Yeah.
in the 90s too. That's
You couldn't have filled the RX-7 with enough people to counteract that
Nope.
weight.
No, not really.
I mean, assuming you got a 200-pound person driving the Supra, and there's back seats, and let's not even talk about the sport roof.
No.
Okay, what do you want to talk about
For a long
AW11s?
tiny bit, kind of. We sold them for 23 grand.
23 for a blown low mileage.
Wow.
I can't decide if that feels really expensive for a 1989 small Toyota Coupe.
This is in Mississippi?
I'll bet.
Yeah,
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Is that a lot or is that a little? Because it's special. It's a mid-engine Toyota that I'm sure handles incredibly well.
I'll tell you this.
23 grand
I'll tell you
for a
this.
1989 small two-door coupe.
I drove an SW20 Turbo.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely
SW20, by the way.
amazing.
Also,
I have
20 to 30
never
grand.
driven an AW11, blown AW11. If this car were local, I would have absolutely reviewed
100%.
it.
It's so cool.
I drove an SW20 Turbo, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm driving around thinking to myself, why do I have all these expensive cars?
Right.
This thing is just as good.
We sold the one that you reviewed.
We sold the one I reviewed for real money. It was a
the
red
highest one we've ever
stock
sold.
turbo. It was probably that one. It was really, it was really nice. But even 35 seemed like a pretty good number because it was just so good to drive.
Doesn't that and 25 grand for a nice AW11 feel like a lot of money?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, some have been turned into kit cars.
It feels like a lot when you think that an NA, you can still get an NA for 7, but it feels cheap when you think that a 348 is 100 grand, and this honestly is probably better.
That's a great point.
I've always liked these cars. Always wanted to drive an SW20.
Dude, it
I
is
think they're
so
cool.
good. I was astonished. It just felt so perfectly just responsive and light and little in the most wonderful way. Great manual box. Everything about it was good. And you felt you could beat on it because it was a Toyota.
Yeah.
Have a cool car you're looking to sell? Sell it on Cars and Bids. Cars and Bids is the ultimate online marketplace for cool cars, and it takes just a few minutes to submit your car. Our expert auction specialist team will build your listing and get it live on Cars and Bids in as little as 3 days. Cars and Bids has over 750,000 registered users, and our content brings more eyeballs to your auction than our competitors. This means you'll get more money for your cool car. Just look at these cars auctioned where Cars and Bids brought more money than our competitors. This, and this, and this, and this. Get started today. Go to carsandbids.com and hit the sell car button. I can't wait to write your Doug's take. We got to move on to questions. Questions are the backbone of our podcast. They're the lifeblood of our podcast. The questions are, of course, sponsored by Filippo.
Ooh, thank you. Do I get something for... Do I have to pay?
Filippo,
How does this work?
Filippo, who's wearing a Land Cruiser shirt because he was one of the biggest complainers on the 4Runner video.
That's right.
He was in those comments being like, can't believe Doug got paid by Toyota.
FJ40.
He's got some alternate username. Anyway, questions. You can ask your own questions. Go to carsandbids.com, click on the community tab, and there will be a, look at that SLR, Kenny. You see that thing?
I did see that.
Go back to that. I don't even care. Look at that thing.
Was this spotted just somewhere? Wow.
Looks
How
like
crazy.
Portuguese plates. That is so cool.
Wow.
Anyway, questions. I just love. I don't want to own an SLR. I don't really want to drive an SLR, but seeing an SLR is like the greatest moment of my week.
Yeah.
We ask us questions. You go to the pod thing. The pod thing will be on the pod thing. Okay, first question. First question from JRAD1600.
Yeah.
Why is the final sale price of the sold after auctions always kept a secret, not disclosed? Have you discussed displaying those prices? Yes. Can we do this?
Yeah, we're going to. Very
Okay.
soon.
Next question.
There you go.
Next question from Hugh Brown. Question for the adult on the pod.
Oh, okay.
What happened to the second E39 M5 you bought for the challenge? Any chance you could race it against Kenan in his car to see who the E39 M5 king is? Maybe he thinks you're the adult.
Well, as an
I
adult,
think
I
that's fair.
don't race. But yes, we're going to be
Jensen
selling.
Button is an adult. He races.
Yeah, but we're not. So we don't condone street racing here. But
Street racing, let's take it to the track.
you want to ship those cars to Truck Wall again?
Ship them. I'll drive it out there. I'll beat you. Okay, what's happening to the car?
We still have the other E39. I'm looking at it currently over there. But so it's going to be on Cars and Bids very soon, in addition to the Cayenne Turbo.
Let me tell you what happened. Can I explain what happened?
Sure.
We had 3 cars.
I don't know where you're going with
We
it,
had
but
3
sure.
cars for the challenges.
Well, yes, 3 of our cars and 1 of Nick's.
And then Nick had a car too, which wasn't part of it. We did a giveaway. A guy won a car,
Yeah.
and we let him choose one of the 3. First time it's ever been done in the history of challenges. That's what Trump would say. It's probably been done a bunch. He chose the Corvette. Okay.
Correctly.
The reason that
Correctly.
the reason
Good job.
that the M5 and the Cayenne have not been sold on the site yet is because we had to have this whole process play out. The giveaway, there was a certain amount of time, and then the guy had to come and pick up the car, which he did. His name was Michael. He lives in Colorado Springs. He drove the car home. He made it home.
And
good.
I'm told got 28 miles per gallon on the
28
climb
miles per
from
gallon.
sea level to 7,000 feet.
That's Filippo.
Corvette
That's what
is the
Filippo
best.
honed in on there.
Yep.
Was the actually coming.
That is the one piece of information I received.
The point is, now that Michael has chosen his car and picked it up, we're going to sell the other two. And let me tell you something. We're going to make money. We're going to make bank. We bought the M5 for $19,500. I stood on it a couple times. I think we're going to sell it for
half of that statement is correct. You did stand on it a couple times.
He didn't stand on it, but he did scratch it.
I
but
will say the M5
pushed
was the
him away
cheapest
from
car.
it.
I scratched it. You ran over a TV with it.
It was.
Did you run over a TV with the car?
Did you scratch the fender?
Yeah, I did. Did you run over a TV with it? Did you run over a TV with it?
I gently, barely backed over the television that was inexplicably on the ground.
Was driving the car. There was a
Fist
TV.
Island.
He said, "I'm going to run over this."
Well, it was so rutted up. I didn't want to damage the rest of the car. I didn't realize I'd have to avoid a TV on a beach. Welcome to San Diego. Ridiculous.
I don't want to hear the specifics. All I remember is you ran
Fiesta
over
Island.
a TV with the car.
Love Fiesta Island.
Okay, next question. This is a legitimate question, and I want to pose it to you first, not him. You don't answer until he's answered.
Great.
Okay.
From Big Ultimate Hater 6, what would it take for you to buy an EV sports car?
Gun to my head. Pull the trigger. EV sports cars don't have any. I have no real interest in them. Sports car is experiential, and EV, although they're fast, it's like it doesn't provide. I would like an engine as a part of my experience in a sports car. I can see having an EV as a daily, where it's just an object like my phone that just it's a utility. But for a sports car, it needs to be experiential. And to me, speed is not enough. Acceleration is not enough. I want an engine. I want sound. I want vibration and emotion. Filippo?
I have a different answer here because I think frequently. Of course I do. I think frequently about what situation I would buy an EV in. My wife and I both don't really have a commute. Doesn't really make that much sense. And we take a lot of long road trips, which an EV is not well suited for. If there were a cool EV sports car, I don't need my daily driver to have 4 seats. Now, all of my daily drivers do have 4 seats. Like, I don't need that. And if I could combine EV, I don't need gas, I can charge at home or at work or whatever, and I had a commute, and it's a fun sports car EV, I would do it.
But what would the benefit of having a sports car on that commute be instead of a Model 3?
Right.
If depending on what my commute is, it would be fun.
But a Model 3 would be, you put your dog in
like
a
a
Model
sport-
3.
So in your mind,
I would
your
love
commute is like on some curve.
Sure, and like we live in San Diego. There's only one convertible EV, and it's the original Tesla Roadster. And if there were another convertible EV, that's appealing in Southern California.
So it's the Hummer.
First off, there was an i8 Roadster.
Not electric.
Second, there was a Jeep Wrangler 4xE.
Again, all hybrids, not electric.
Third, I believe I drove an MG Cyberster right here in the office.
That's not sold in the U.S. Now,
witness
Hummer is
that.
an
And
interesting
what a
point.
shame.
Targa, whatever.
Hey,
But you
what
get my
about the
point.
Hummer?
You can get my point though. Like if you can drive one, and it's enjoyable in Southern California, and it's a little bit more fun.
But do you want
it is more fun.
to argue your point here? Do you want a stiff riding like sports car as a daily?
I don't want.
Plus,
sports car,
imagine the
period.
situation in which he could get a Model 3 for $14 on the site,
Right.
but pays up to buy an EV sports car.
No, obviously I'm not
It would
spending
never
money on
occur.
any of these things. But I'm not buying a car. Period. I did 2 weeks ago, but I'm not buying a car again. Period.
Okay, so in this hypothetical where you can get an EV sports car for the same price as a regular car, where you have a commute that takes you on a curvy roads.
Or just where I want the top down. It doesn't have to
Okay.
be a fun sports car.
Okay. Yeah, so the answer for you is you wouldn't either. And my answer is the same as Kennan's. So that's kind of that. Now we know why there's no EV sports cars.
Except for the upcoming Boxster.
I drove that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I drove that MG Cyberster.
Yeah.
And it was a great car. And I mean that sincerely. And it's not just because the Chinese government has implanted something in my brain that is forcing me to say this or else it'll explode.
So clarify, not just because or not because? Because two
It's not
very
just
different things.
because.
Okay.
No, the Cyberster was cool. It really was. But I was sitting there thinking, why would someone buy this? Like, sports cars are experiential. Like you said.
Why does somebody buy a Toyota Camry Solara? Because they want a slightly sportier looking version of a Camry.
Okay, I would posit 2 responses to that. Number 1, the MG Cyberster is a Camry Solara I can get for $7,000. The MG Cyberster is $86,000.
When the Camry Solara
Number
was new,
2,
it was more expensive than a Camry.
people buy the
think.
Camry Solara for one reason and one reason alone: to flex.
Right.
Okay.
I'll accept that answer.
Next question. Next question from CJ Keitel. Hello, Doug, Kennan, and Filippo.
Hello.
As we enter,
Hello. For sure my name's spelled wrong, but hello.
Yeah, as we enter a new period of time with cars from the 2000s beginning to be eligible for import to the U.S., what do you anticipate will have their values increase or decrease with increased demand in the U.S.?
Great question. Z8 is the first one that comes to mind. It's like, I think, because they made quite a few, and so I suspect like values have been down on Z8s generally. I think they'll continue to go down. I think that
That's a good point. That's a good one.
I think Zondas will continue to go up as they become. I mean, allegedly
Brings
they
a
trade
new
hands
market in. I agree.
for $10 million, but I bet those continue to go up. Very special car.
Yep. Good one.
What's another one?
NSX-R with the fixed headlights.
I think the same
Seriously,
way.
that's a special
that's a
car,
special
and
car.
they came out in 02, which means they're 2 years away from being legal. And same thing is going to happen on R34 with those.
I on the topic of R34s, I actually think values might go down. We have a bunch of them that are coming into the U.S. now, and so like supply has gone up on them. And I wonder if values stay as high as they have.
They're all pre-purchased. Like every R34, basically at this point, is pre-purchased.
Yeah, the
They're
values
just
went up
waiting.
because there was so much interest. I actually think the question I think is actually related specifically to the R34, which is which cars start to see their prices increase as they get close to that 25 curve. You know, another one is the RS4 Avant, B7 RS4
Yeah, I
Avant.
was gonna say
that car
and
is
E61 M5.
E61 M5. Both of those cars are not particularly valuable right now.
I think E46 M3 CSL might be one of
Yep.
those on that list. People will do the manual conversion to them as they should. But
That's a good one.
That's one. Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few.
There are cars though that like are these special Euro import. Like my G-Wagon cab values are going to go down. Defender values went down.
Yep.
Because the 25 thing just opened up a much wider market. Now G-cabs are still valuable in Europe, but you know you don't have to federalize it anymore.
Right.
My car is now 25. Like I federalized it. I got 6 great years with it before it was legal because we legalized it.
Yep.
But now I could just buy one. And the results are perplexing and difficult to accept. No, I don't really care. Let me tell you this. I want to make a point here.
Ooh.
In 4 short years, I am going to import thumbs down. I'm going to import a C55 AMG wagon.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm here for that.
It was my favorite AMG C class. That is a sketchy thing to say.
You're slicing that pretty thin here.
Dude, I loved all AMG C classes.
Oh, do you? Okay.
All except the new C40.
I haven't liked any.
Which I like, but it's not the same. You haven't liked any AMG C class? The C36 and the C43, the originals? The C55?
No.
That body was so little, it had a giant.
I've also never liked a C-Class estate.
The C63, the original C63?
Never
You don't like
liked the
that
C-Class
wagon?
estate. I've never been a C-Class fan.
Filippo's an
This has
E-class man.
legitimately been true consistently across my entire
Must
life.
be nice to just be an E-Class guy.
Yep.
It
is.
I sometimes plan for the future, which might need some austerity. You know what I mean? Next question. 2 more. Next
For the
question.
record, I would then import a C180 estate, not a C55, but fine.
You know what he would import? You know what he would import? You know what car he was looking forward to in a couple of years? E46 Compact.
I would be so into it if you got one of those. Those
ugly
Filippo has this interest in
Bring up the E46.
in all these cars, but he won't import them. He's like the one guy who should. He's got the money and the interest, and he won't do it.
Yeah, look at those headlights. That
Look
could be
at
you,
those
Filippo.
headlights.
Those. What was the creature from Lilo and Stitch? They had like lots of eyes. That's what.
Why did this happen? Why didn't they just give it the headlights from the regular car?
I don't know. This must have cost so much more to do on their cheapest car. It makes no sense.
So weird and heinous.
Just
Obviously, I want one. You agree?
of course.
Yeah, I am. Heinous, but-
S54 swap that thing in a heartbeat.
My God, could you imagine S54 swapping that, throwing some good suspension on there, putting the little gills in? You show up at Filippo's house, he would run inside. He'd be like, please don't hurt me.
Is there a single photo where the hood looked like it was painted alongside the rest of the car? What
is the deal with that?
Has
This one included. What is going
That's a
on?
good point.
Unfortunately, those were all sold as 316Ds.
The best
Okay. 2 more questions. Next one from Ethan Hickerson. Doug, what car have you reviewed have you had to do the most research on? The answer is the cars that will get the most views. I'm always afraid.
Yeah.
Like an F50, you got to really do some work in that video.
right. Great.
I'm serious. Next question from Inexpla. How about bringing back the Doug car? I know Doug has enough vehicles in his personal fleet, but how about from time to time buying something weird to keep around the office for a few months for the gang to drive and make videos? No. I will never buy another car as long as I live.
Well, I think the person might be asking about something like the Cayenne.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So I'm not personally going to do it.
Right.
Would the company be interested in doing it?
I think if you make a really
Our
compelling
producer's shaking
case,
his head yes.
Let's say I want to
nodding,
multiply.
Brad.
Like I want to multiply.
I also want to multiply.
We want to multiply, right?
Right.
I'm not doing it. I've imported too many
If you
cars.
want
It's too many
multiply,
headaches.
then I
There's
want
tariffs
multiply.
now. I don't know how it's going to be tariffed.
I like to think that you and I combined have some weight. Now you have some weight, and I have a little bit. So combined,
So
we can
let's
do it.
do this. But I want to be very clear here. It's the same with the Cayenne. I'm not associated with this. I'm not paying for this. I'm not in any way, shape, or form part of this. Financially and headacheally. It's not even the finance.
Headacheally, yeah.
It's really the headache. Because remember when the A-Class was dumping fuel?
Yes. I do.
I brought the A-Class here thinking that it was going to be the coolest little thing. We brought it here. We got it outside. It came off the truck, and it was just dumping fuel on the ground. And I said to Filippo, I gave him the keys, and I said, handle this.
And I think Kenan did. It was great.
Yeah, it's like a Mercedes tech. It was fine. But yes, now, of course, we'll back up to 8 seconds ago when you said that you're going to import a C55.
And 5 years.
In 5 years. And I'm going to hold firm to that. So fine. I'm not buying any more cars, but in 5 years, I'll grant myself a $23,000 exception.
But you're not going to do that anyway.
I absolutely am going to do
You
that.
don't want to deal with that headache.
Rami will take care of it all for me.
In 5 years, it'll be a different Doug.
In 5 years, I'll be ready.
He goes through this.
No, I'm done. I've been clear about this. I haven't bought a car in almost 2 years now. Yeah, because Countach was the last car I bought. Okay, daily drivers don't count. I don't understand.
It's a car.
Okay,
you said I'm not buying a car. You purchased a vehicle
parked
used
right
for
now?
transportation.
Outside your
4 wheels.
I'm going to tell you the way
who's
this
the
works.
title to? Doug.
I'm
Who's
saying
it
I'm not
insured
buying
to?
any more
Doug.
cars, but when the daily drivers age out, I will replace them. I'm not going to be driving around on a Hupmobile because I said I wouldn't buy any more cars. Like the daily driver cars are boring. They will be replaced. Nobody cares about those. When I do videos with them, literally no one watches. Nobody cares. However, I haven't bought a fun car, and I'm not going to. Okay? But if the office wants to buy a car,
If the Sequoia had a V8, it would have been a fun car.
no, it wouldn't have. If the office wants to buy a car,
Yeah.
I'm interested.
I hear you.
You do something with the money for the company.
Sometimes.
You have some role
Yeah.
with the finances because
Right.
I get emails from you about how the finances are going.
Right.
So you must have some sway.
Right.
Couldn't you misplace 20 grand and we get a multiplier?
I don't even think it would be 20. I think it'd be a lot less than 20.
all in and
want a
everything.
nice-
All in, I bet it's still less than 20.
If you have a multiple, it's already titled in the U.S. Let me know. Carved, maybe.
Okay, last question, and I believe this one is just for me and Filippo, from Grunkle Letanar. Question for Doug or all, but it's going to be for us. Which Eagle model was your favorite, and which was the most unusual? Okay, this is a tough one. The most unusual was undoubtedly the Eagle Premier. Pull it up, please.
Yeah.
I was so shocked by that.
The Eagle
I'm
Premier
sure we've never
is-
sold one.
No.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It'll come up.
Right.
Eagle Premier
Premier.
car. There you go. Click on that. So the Eagle Premier was a rebadged. Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, the Eagle Premier was also sold as the Dodge Monaco. That was the common one that we also got in the States, and it was sold as the Renault Premier. I don't know where, but in other markets, this was inexplicably also sold as a Renault. Now, there it is with a Renault badge on it. AMC
What am
and
I
Renault.
thinking of?
This is going deep, but AMC and Renault got tied up together, and they made cars in Wisconsin together. And then AMC became Jeep and Eagle, and so Eagle kept the Renault tie. And so there were some Eagles that were Renaults. This is deep stuff. This is 35 years ago Detroit stuff.
What am I thinking of?
Nothing. You're thinking of nothing. Yeah, there you go. Those were the three. The Dodge Monaco. There's that was the Eagle Summit sedan. That I don't even know what it is. And there's the Eagle Premier. Okay. The best Eagle though was the Vision TSI. It was the everybody knows it's the DSI.
I don't agree with the Eagle lineup. Turns out comes back on something else. Yeah, the Vision TSI is good.
Vision TSI was one of the first cars with a Tiptronic. They called it auto stick. This is true. And you could manually shift. Porsche had come out with it like the prior year, and then Eagle came out with it. So it was the famous big two.
Really?
Porsche and Eagle.
Really cutting edge technology, very sharp talons on that
It
Eagle.
didn't work either. Auto stick was designed very differently than Tiptronic. It didn't really shift gears. It kind of told the transmission the max that you wanted to go to. And all the transmission actually turned out to be the weak point in the whole car. And there are none of these left anywhere, even in Detroit.
I was going to say the AMC Eagle, which was then they called the Eagle Wagon briefly, is the best.
But that wasn't an Eagle.
It was then referred to as the Eagle Wagon.
Maybe for an afternoon.
Yeah.
The actual answer to this question, by the way, the Eagle Talon TSI is the best Eagle. It was the DSM car. They sold 2 generations of it, and it is just as good as the Eclipse. And I always felt it looked better.
Yeah, it does.
Because they did some of them with white wheels, with white wheels.
Yeah.
And anytime you can do white wheels, I can't. I don't know how to do it. There you go. There's one.
There's one.
What sedan was I thinking of?
1G DSM. There's nothing like a 1G DSM. Dude, you get a 1G DSM, a voltmeter, and a straight stretch of road, and you got yourself a weekend. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely have no clue. What do you need a
They got all
voltmeter?
sorts of electrical issues, just tons. All right.
Voltmeter.
And you would do the straight stretch of road because like you'd get like a little bit down. Oh, that's not working. I got it. Anyway,
And you want to fix it on a straight stretch to avoid.
well, you would. That's where you would do your testing.
Right.
Okay, all right. That's the end of that. This was the finest pod we've ever done, I believe.
Best one we've done for sure.
Filippo, any parting
Yeah.
words?
Sure. Check out carsandbeds.com.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.